Hi, ESL volunteers. I have decided to create some videos to support you on some things that I have been noticing where some questions lie or some difficulties within the last few months that we've been going through our English class. So I've decided to create a video to show you in detail our lesson plan and explain some systems that we have in the class just so you know, how do you know that you are being successful in your group, as well as how to properly follow the order on the tasks. I'm going to start by explaining piece by piece within a lesson plan, and this is an example of yesterday's lesson plan from January 27th. As you see from the top, we have our instructor, which would be ESL, and myself, the date of the class, January 27th, 2021. Then we have the lesson title, which means what we are focusing on today in the class or whenever this happens in class. In this case, the lesson is about compound sentences and participial adjectives. The grade level for adults. And our objective of our class today is students will be able to learn what is a participial adjective, so it's an introductory class, how to properly express themselves in a sentence, and review their compound sentences from homework. Then I provide on the bottom the links, any link you will need for volunteering. This would be the Zoom chat for entering our classroom with our meeting ID and our password, as well as the link of every class's Google Slides. This Google Slides, you do not need permission to edit, as I will be sharing these Google Slides. So a volunteer, really, if you want to view them so you know what I will be discussing, please click this link and you will be able to view them. You will not need access for editing, as the teacher handles these Google Slides. And then last, we have our ESL library login, which is a system that we use within our ESL class. And please, if you see links on the bottom throughout your lesson plan, know that you will need to sign in first before you access these links. So the email for logging in is my email. The password, reading is good, capital R and exclamation mark. Then we jump into our tasks and our lesson. So as you see, you will see the time I expect to be permitting students to arrive, as well as volunteers and myself. And we will be welcoming students. I always say hi as they come in, as well as the volunteers. And we start at 5:50. I provide only 5 minutes of leeway for students to arrive. At 5:50, I begin by reviewing the goals of the day and class announcements. The volunteers at this time can support by continuing to admit students into the classroom, as you will be co-hosts. And the teacher will select a student to read the goals of the day. This lasts for 10 minutes. Then I go into an explanation of what the objective of the class was. And in this case, the objective was to learn participial adjectives. So I have added either videos or resources for the to be able to see during class on what is a second day of what are participial adjectives in this case. And we have a video, we have some flashcards from Quizlet, and we review an order of adjectives. All of this will be taking 20 minutes. Volunteers, you can feel free to watch these videos beforehand, but you do not need to. This is something the teacher will be explaining and will be ensuring that they comprehend before going into your groups. Then we jump into our small groups. Our small groups, it is important to note the timing of your small groups, as I provide a lot of tasks within your small groups. So if you have, for example, 3 tasks and you want to make sure that you can get to 3 tasks in 45 minutes, I would divide those and put a timer on your phone. What I do personally is I only put a timer for 7:05, and at 7:05 I make sure that I close all the breakout rooms so that we have time to complete our lesson. If you want to do that and that can help you manage your time better, please feel free. Your phone is a great resource for that. Then right on the bottom, we have the goal of the small groups. In this case, students will review what are adjectives, will be able to locate adjectives with little to no support from volunteers, and create a compound sentence utilizing adjectives with little support. This is what a Go volunteer can do in order to know if they're being successful, meaning that if you have a task where you're reviewing adjectives, make sure to provide little to no support and see if they can do it. If they can do it, this is what the goal of the group. So you are being successful. If they are not able to do it, support them, and then the second time around, that is that student's turn, do not support them and see if they can do it, or provide explanation the first time to see if they can have any questions so that the second time around they can answer it. And then you create, the other goal is create a compound sentence utilizing adjectives with little support. Same thing. If a student can create a compound sentence with little support, you are being successful in your group. If a student is not able to create a compound sentence utilizing adjectives, provide some support, provide some explanation, and then the second time around, is the student's turn. See if they can do it with no support. This goal will always be changed according to what you're discussing in your groups. Then we have which student is on which group. You will always have the same students as the groups are divided by English language levels. So Bert has the advanced students, Kim has the intermediate students, and Janet and I have the beginner students. The reason we divided them into 3 instead of 6 is beginners usually take longer to go through tasks. So when you have a smaller group, it goes by quicker. Note that you will always have the same students. If you have a new student, it means that the student changed levels. So the student would be joining your group and remaining there for as long as you tell me that the student is doing great within your group during at your post-class survey. So one of the questions of our post-class survey is a student, do all students feel like they are understanding? Does no one seem lost or bored because they know this already? That feedback is what I use to move a student if needed. Then we go into our tasks. This is very important to note. If you see a task that does not have the if time, this means the tasks have to be followed in this order. So all volunteers, all groups will need to start on the first task. The reason these are very specific in order is because we had just discussed participial adjectives. Therefore, the next task should be participial adjectives so you can review what they just learned. If you jump into something else, then they will not get this review and will not be able to answer questions or not be able to answer any doubts they might have had about this topic. So please make sure to always follow the order in your tasks. And if the task has in parentheses if time, then you know that you have leeway in choosing between the tasks that have the if time noted on it. So in this case, we will start with first task and everyone will continue with their second tasks. Obviously, the second task is dependent on your group. So for example, Bert's group will have a very specific second task. Kim's group will have a different one. And Janice and Lena will have a different one. In this case, it was the same activity but different because in Janice's group it was 6 sentences. In Kim's group it was only, I believe it was 10 sentences, and Bert's was also more sentences. So please make sure to read your group's tasks and follow them in the according order. If there is a third task and it says if time, like for example, here Bert had a third task with if time and a fourth task with if time, he can choose to do this fourth task first instead of the third time. Whichever one he feels would be best for his group that day. And something else that I do is I always present this to the group and I say, okay, I have these 2 tasks that we could do next. Which one would you prefer? And I give them a choice so that way they have some leeway on expressing which one they would like. Then we continue with the same format in different groups. So in this case, these would be the tasks for the advanced group, these would be the tasks for the intermediate group, and these would be the tasks for the beginner groups. Then we have what is happening next. In this case, all volunteer students and teachers will return to the classroom at 7:05, and I will review homework for the weekend and lead a poll about our mid-year presentations. This is where I always strive to end class on time. Note, sometimes I do go over. My apologies. If you really have to go at 7:15, please always let me know, and please feel free to log out at 7:15. And then if you ever run through all your tasks that I have provided and you still have time left, please go to visit this section in your lesson plan, as I always provide extra activities to do. In this case, I have a categories game. No one has really played it, so that's why I haven't moved it from there. But the minute I see in your post-class survey that you reached this task, then I switch it or I recycle and offer a new one. And then the last section is a very important section, is where you have your survey for your volunteer post-class survey. This is the survey that to please complete right after class while everything is fresh in your mind, so that it can provide me with information like, is a student feel lost? Does a student feel bored in your group? Where did you finish in your group? And that is really important to note. For example, if I'm going to take Kim, for example, if Kim was only able to complete her first and second task, that is what she should write on the survey. She should write completed first and second task. So that way I know that the third and fourth task were not done, and I could recycle these and offer them for Monday's class. And that way I can make sure that the students complete these activities. So that is why the survey is really important. And the last question on the survey is, what resources do you feel like you need, and what did not go well in your group and what went well in your group? That helps me note if you had any technical difficulties, if you had any questions, etc. Please let me know if you had any further questions about this lesson plan, but this is a lesson plan in ESL in detail explanation. My next video will be how to properly interact with students in a virtual setting.